Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode. Glad to have you here with us today. So, I am really excited about this episode because this issue that we're talking about today is something that is very common. Let's just put it that way. So many of my clients deal with it, much more than probably any other issue. And I know a lot of you out there deal with it. So that's why we're going to do kind of an entire episode on this particular um, area, and that is talking about constipation. Yay! So if you know me, you know I love to talk poop anyway. And if you aren't pooping, that is an issue for your health on a lot of levels. So we want to get you pooping, a good amount. So I brought on today's guest. Her name is Marieke Steen, and she is a functional nutritionist and hormone expert, helping women with fertility issues, hormonal, acne, or other hormonal imbalance or disorders. Her motto is, don't accept feeling just okay. You deserve better. You can find her at mariekesteen.com. Welcome, Marieke.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So excited that you're here talking about this subject that nobody actually wants to talk about, but
oh gosh,
everybody's worried about, right? So, I definitely want to kind of talk about why this is an area that you focus on. But let's just start at the basics, because I'm not sure that everybody understands what is defined as constipation. So maybe start there.
Yeah, that's also what I was actually looking at when we made up this meeting, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, actually, when you look on the internet, interestingly, there's a definition that says that if you have less than 3 bowel movements per week, you're considered being constipated.
Yeah.
And
okay.
I totally don't agree with this, and I think you don't either. So yeah, I mean, I've been dealing with constipation almost like most of my life, and I actually never, I mean, that's the thing, right? If you're constipated, you actually might not know you are, because you for you it's just normal,
right?
And you've never known any better, so you just think it's normal. And also many women actually have constipation.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk to friends, or there's all these commercials on TV about laxatives, so it seems such a normal thing that you wouldn't even question it or think it might be causing maybe other health issues on the go.
Right.
So
yeah, I that just makes me think about this friend that I have, that one time we were having this conversation, and I think she said she went to the bathroom once every 3 to 4 days. And she was like, that's just my normal. That's not, and I was like, I get it that it's your normal because that's what's been happening for you, but that isn't necessarily good for your body.
yeah,
But
totally.
it can be a hard conversation to have with people.
Yeah, I mean, it's also when you basically bring this up, then basically the questioning happens, right? And first they don't want to believe you, and then if you, well, I mean, now I can say for myself, I've been constipated most of my life, and now I am able to go to the bathroom every day. So that's a great achievement.
That's huge.
For me. Yeah.
Yeah. So what did your constipation look like? Like how many days would you go?
I mean, as a child, I couldn't even say. I think it was actually really bad, because I remember that my mom used to give me enemas.
Oh, wow.
And then when I was an adult, I guess maybe I could go to the bathroom like 3 times per week. I would have fit in right in that. And then, I mean, what still happens though, when I go traveling, for instance, I will get constipated, but we can talk about that a little bit.
I definitely want to talk about that, because people always, ask me about that, and they're like, why does this happen? So, well, so what are some of the things that you started to do for yourself to help with your constipation?
Well, the first thing I actually did was changing my diet, and I kind of noticed quite early already when I was eating my vegetables, my poop was also getting better. And when I was moving my body, when I was walking, exercising, I could see the effect also on my digestion. So those were basically the the first things I did in my early teens, basically kind of noticing I need to have my vegetables.
I get that fiber.
Yeah, actually, yeah, exactly. So get that fiber, and yeah, and also basically move your body out. But I'm also kind of a nervous person, so that's also linked to constipation. But yeah, basically kind of walking it off and kind of walking off that nervousness. I think that probably also helped.
Yeah, I just want to like put a little exclamation point on that point of yours, because I think that, we were so caught up with exercise being this thing for like around our weight and weight loss and all of that. And exercise is such an important part of so many systems in our bodies, including, keeping things moving. Like our body needs to move in order to keep things moving. And what a difference that can make for people, and I don't think people necessarily go to that place first when they're constipated, thinking about that.
Definitely, and what I see often with my clients as well when I suggest exercise, often it's an issue of time or maybe not feeling sporty. But I mean, you don't have to. It's just basically walking every day. That can be that can already be a lot.
Yeah.
Or
walk after your meal, like especially your nighttime
exactly.
meal. Yeah.
Go for instead of driving somewhere, go on foot. Do grocery shopping on foot. Or I mean, okay, I do live in Europe, I know.
I know, it's like it's definitely a little different than the US. I mean, there's parts of the US
I wanted to do
options.
that when I lived in the States for a short while, and when
where
I was
did
like,
you
okay,
live?
I'm ready to go grocery shopping with my backpack, and they were like,
yeah.
no.
They're like, good luck with that. Where did you live?
I was in Boston.
Oh, okay. Were you in the city or were you like kind of in the outskirts?
In the suburbs.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, definitely not as much of an option for sure. And hot. Oh, in the summers.
Well, I mean, I noticed myself there was actually no pathway, so
not an option.
I was determined and wanting to go, and basically I know it's okay. Either I'm gonna like walk on the highway between the cars, or I'm just gonna go in the car and go get my groceries. So.
I hear you. My mom is German, and it was a big, like a wake up call to her when she moved to the United States, especially like she got stuck in like every small town in the South, and there was definitely no sidewalks. Like that one did not exist. No. Yeah,
not very walking friendly. But yeah, I mean, it can be just so little things, and I know many people are lacking time or maybe also not feeling fit, but it's just basically respecting where you are right now and starting it off slowly. I mean, and basically just go with what you can do, and it will improve. And I mean, just even walking can also have an effect on weight loss as well. So yeah. Yeah, so that definitely moving. But so those were basically the main things I was doing when I was kind of in my teens, kind of trying to eat more vegetables and also trying to drink enough water. I mean, at that time, looking back at my, I thought I was eating very healthy, but I was actually not. So
what was not eating healthy looking like? Well, so people understand.
Yeah, I was basically eating lots of sugar. Back then I was thinking that I needed to eat tons of fruit to get my vitamins. So I was eating tons of fruit, and yeah, I was also eating lots of carbs, basically, like bread. That's a typical German breakfast cereal. Oats. I mean,
a lot of people think they have to eat that stuff to get fiber, right? Like that's kind of because all of these companies have advertised that these things are high fiber, and it's like, that's actually not where you want to.
That's what you have. That's really healthy. And if you actually look at how much sugar there is in there, it's
and not that brand is definitely not good for everybody's body either. No, it can lead to the constipation too. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So then what next steps after you worked on diet and exercise? What was sort of the next level of working with your constipation?
Well, I think, and I've also dealt with migraines basically ever since the age of 3, and they were really bad when I was little.
Wow.
And then kind of when I got older, I got a little bit better managing it. But basically, it meant taking ibuprofen right at the onset of when a headache would come up, and that would help. But basically, like in the past years, like I haven't gotten much headaches anymore, and basically what helped me with that was really I eat a lot of fatty fish, and that helped me a lot with my hormones. And I mean, just looking back now, knowing all that I know now, I can just see that I've been inflamed all my life. I mean, basically, I had the migraines. I was constipated. I was always basically I had this kind of extended belly all the time. So I was really feeling insecure about wearing a bathing suit or anything, and trying to lose weight, although I wasn't overweight.
Right.
So I always thought like, oh my gosh, why is this belly not going away? Until actually at one point I just understood that my intestines were swollen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Full and swollen.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's, so important that people don't necessarily equate inflammation with, migraines or with constipation. I feel like inflammation a lot of times is just this thing that people know of, like when you hurt yourself, or like it's connected to heart disease and stuff like that. But like inflammation is really comes from these sort of daily things that we're doing with our bodies, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And we have a lot of control there.
Yeah, basically diet can do a lot. I mean, as I said, basically, and I also grew up in this thought of fat free and low fat is great. So once you actually overcome that, and I started eating all the fats, I actually had so much food freedom. I felt that I could actually eat everything I wanted and as much as I wanted. And it tasted so good. So I was just so happy when I think in my early 30s I discovered like the paleo style diet. And ever since then, I mean, I still do get sometimes headaches, but it's just I used to have them like several times per month.
Wow.
Maybe per week.
Yeah.
And now it's like I get them maybe a headache every 3 months, or maybe even every 6 months. So it depends, but it's really, and I do know there's inflammation going on, so I kind of have my tools to work with that.
Right. And I love that. I think one of the reasons I do this podcast, and I think that we both do the work that we do, is to teach people to connect to their body's signals, right? Because the more that you're sort of like tuning in, you will understand over time, like when your body has this signal to you, it's like, oh, I gotta maybe pull back, maybe I'm under too much stress, or maybe I've kind of gone off of my way of eating a little too much, and I need to like hone back in, and doing it from a loving place rather than like I have to restrict myself. It's such a beautiful thing when you're like, oh, I know that this does not make me feel good, and so I'm gonna do something
totally
different.
and that's I think also what I see with my clients. Like sometimes in the first sessions they have so many aha moments where they basically say like, oh my gosh, I never thought this would be related, or so I mean that's also what makes this work so exciting, I find, to really actually help people connecting the dots and kind of connect with their bodies and kind of own their health journey from that. So that's really great.
Love it. Yeah. So any other like big things around constipation in particular that people should be aware of?
Well, yeah, I mean, hormonal, I mean, your podcast is hormonally speaking, right? And hormones can be highly impacted by constipation as well, because what's happening is and also toxicity. So basically what's happening is the longer our food and the waste products are sitting in our colon, the more bacterial degradation is happening. So, I mean, our feces don't only contain food waste, but also toxins. And if we're taking medication, so basically there's a lot of not so nice stuff in there that we really want to get out every day.
Get it out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And why is that impacting our hormones is because we also have basically our recycled hormones are also sitting in the feces. So our body, or actually our liver, is recycling the hormones that have been used and kind of packaging them up, making them water soluble, and then they get evacuated in the feces. And so basically once we get constipated and they just keep on sitting in the colon, that at that time they can actually get reabsorbed into our bloodstream. And that's well, if you really want to know how that works, is basically this packaging that I said. It's our liver's kind of packaging up the hormones into the feces. And then we have this bacteria in the gut that that's known as the estrobolome, so kind of a estrogen and microbiome together. And they basically further process these compounds so that they can get excreted. And then if our estrobolome is not healthy for different reasons, there's an enzyme that's called beta-glucuronidase that increases, and that will basically unpackage the estrogen, and that way it can get reabsorbed in our bloodstream, and that then will kind of create confusion to our to the hypothalamus, basically to our hormone glands, that endocrine glands that are kind of managing the overall hormone production in our body, basically thinking, oh, there's actually estrogen there, so do I need to produce more or not? Or so that can create a situation of hormonal imbalance. And and that's basically estrogen dominance can also be a reason for migraines, for instance, or PMS. I mean, you've probably talked about this before, but it's always kind of like a vicious cycle, and everything is connected, right?
Yep. Totally. So, and the impact on the liver again, right? Once like it has been that, estrogen has been released and goes back through the bloodstream and has to be dealt with the liver again, so like our poor livers are like working so hard dealing with everything. And this is why I focus so much, on this podcast on liver health, on gut health, and on adrenal health, because all three of those are just key to dealing with hormone imbalances, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm really glad that you brought up the estrobolome. I talk a lot to people about how important gut health is to your hormones, and they don't tend to understand exactly why, and I mean, there's several different factors, but that's a huge one. Like if your microbiome is off, your estrobolome is off, then you're going to be, releasing that estrogen. It's not going to get out of your body. It's going to go back up in the bloodstream.
Yeah, definitely. But basically I think there's so many things that there's so many basic things that can cause constipation. Like just not drinking enough water.
Drink it.
And a lack of fiber, as you already mentioned. Also, what I see in some of my clients, they're taking painkillers all the time because they have IBS, they get the bad cramping, they're constipated, they get headaches. So they take ibuprofen or Advil, or basically painkillers. And I mean, medication has such a bad effect on some people know it's kind of bad for the stomach, but it's really it's a toxin, and basically anti-inflammatories actually can inflame your body on the long run. So if you take one every 6 months, that's probably not gonna be that bad for you. But if you take them all the time, you will actually create a situation of inflammation in your microbiome that you don't want to have.
Yeah, it makes the situation worse. Just like adds
Yeah.
fuel to the fire for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also what I see in clients a lot is struggling with blood sugar issues. So if you're and then your blood sugar can be imbalanced due to your diet if you're eating, as I was doing, too many carbs, too much sugar basically. But it can also be from inflammation in your gut. It can basically come from underlying inflammation or causes of inflammation that people might not be aware of, especially in the gut. I think many people actually don't pay much attention to, or they don't actually think they would have a problem, although they have a lot of gas, or they actually. I mean, if you actually start asking these questions, they go like, "Oh, yeah, actually, I do have gas, and I actually have that. Yeah, now that you asked." But
I know.
I think many people are just, it's like talking about poop. It's just not a nice topic, and you just kind of go over it and don't talk about it, and kind of how you say that again, like blend it out.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because as you were talking, I was like, I will always ask the clients first off, like, how's your digestion? They're like, oh, pretty good. And then I'll say, so do you have gas? Oh, well, yeah, some, maybe a little bit more than I'd like. And I'm like, are you bloated? Well, sometime. And it's just hilarious, right? Because it's like, so that means your digestion is actually not okay. But I get it. It's not something that we talk about generally in polite society, right? And so I think it's definitely hard for people to sort of dive into that, and yet it tells us so much information, right? Like so much.
It's not like a dinner conversation or something you would discuss, like ask people about when you go to a party or something, like just like a general topic. Or maybe if you go to like a meeting with
nutritionist is definitely a dinner conversation. We're like, so let's talk more about poop. Can you talk a little bit about the role of stress too with constipation?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I already mentioned the traveling, and like I'm as a nature, I'm a very nervous person, like kind of introvert but inside nervous. And that's the thing, like it's kind of this holding on to things, and that's what happens with constipation as well, right? That I think people with this kind of profile where you actually are not really getting things out, or saying things that bother you, that actually has an impact on your microbiome. And it's actually also sometimes just a posture of kind of being cramped up, and and the vagus nerve is one of my favorite topics.
Yeah, tell us more about that, because that's such a hot and important topic that I think a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah. So I can also talk about myself again, because I was going through a situation of very high stress, and I think my osteopath was basically being my best friend at that time. I think I went to see him almost every week.
Wow.
And what he was actually doing was he was unblocking my intestines.
Yes.
And my liver, and that helped me so much, because basically what happens is when you're kind of cramping up and your digestive tract is not well, you get all this pain in your shoulders, and you get, your neck gets blocked, and so the vagus nerve is basically what helps how our microbiome is communicating with our brain. And so the vagus nerve, it starts, kind of behind the ears, and it goes through the neck, and then all the way through the digestive tract down. So basically, things that you might not notice, like, maybe just clenching or just emotional stress, clenching teeth at night, which is a sign again of being nervous, being stressed. Those basically all affect the vagus nerve, of course. And also, then on the other hand, if you have a lot of if you have a lot of unrest, like a dysbiosis going, and you got a lot of these bacteria kind of, I always say it's kind of like, imagine your brain has basically is getting all this chatter from your microbiome all day, where, it's like 200 ducks kind of chattering away. So it's really exhausting.
Right. I like that image.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I see it, right? So yeah, basically that's why tending to our vagus nerve and kind of also doing maybe other things like seeing an osteopath, or doing foot reflexology, for instance, or those things can really help understanding also yourself. I think foot reflexology is really great, actually, at pointing or understanding which organs are kind of out of balance, and you will make connections there, really understanding your own body. That's why also I really love that a lot.
Right. Because for those that haven't done it, it's basically like the different points on the bottom of your feet and top of your feet connect to different organs, right?
Yes.
And so you can usually often feel, more pain in the areas that there's stuff going on with your organs. And just as a quick side note, probably about 10 years ago now, I did a coal walk. Have you heard of those, where it's like basically
hot coals?
Yeah, the hot coals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was a whole like day long thing. We did all this, like these trust exercises to get to that place. And then we did the coal walk at the end, and it was fascinating because the instructor said, sort of like pay attention to the parts of your feet that really get the most burned, or what doesn't, because the same thing as reflexology, like it tends to be the spots that have the most, impact to them are the organs that are having issues. So I thought that was, pretty fascinating, right? It's always, as we said, it's all interconnected, right? And I do want to say that I'm so glad you brought up the like physical manipulation aspect, because I found this with clients too. Like sometimes we do all the stuff, right? We work on the microbiome, we work on like stress, we work on, diet and getting enough water, and they're getting better, but they still have some level of constipation. And I've really found, referring them to some kind of practitioner that can work on their, the physical aspects of the gut. So visceral manipulation or osteopath, that kind of thing, can be life-changing too.
Yeah, and I think stress techniques, stress releasing techniques can of course have a good impact, like like EFT, or also yoga. I think everyone needs to kind of find the one that works for them.
For sure.
But yeah, definitely that part is very important as well. I agree.
And what about with the vagus nerve? What is some of your favorite like ways to work with it or stimulate it?
Well, I actually like to use essential oils a lot. So I'm using like a parasympathetic blend that I also basically apply behind my ears before I eat.
Oh, cool.
And that kind of helps putting me, also improving my digestion, in the sense that I will be in parasympathetic state when I'm eating.
Yes. Because so many of us are stuck in our sympathetic state because we're eating on the go, or just not calming down to eat. Yeah.
Yeah, and even also what I work a lot with women who basically just have little kids, busy moms, and often like a family meal for them means actually feeding the kids and kind of shoving in food at the same time. So they actually couldn't say at the end of the meal, they wouldn't even know what they had.
Did I taste anything? Yeah.
And sometimes life's not perfect, right? And you can try to do like all the right things, but sometimes you just need some I like to use hacks as well, and some shortcuts when I can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So are you up for sharing what's in your parasympathetic essential oil mix?
It's actually, I use the one from Vibrant Blue Oil. So I
Oh,
actually
okay.
made my own.
Okay.
So they sell it as a mix, but yeah, since I live in Europe, it's kind of difficult to get them shipped.
Gotcha.
So it's lime,
Uh-huh.
lime essential oil, and
Okay.
clove.
Oh, okay.
So you could basically just get one of each and
Yeah.
just put it on your on your fingers, and basically you just put a drop on your finger and rub it behind your ear.
Nice. I love that.
Um,
Thank you for sharing that. That's a really cool
you're
little
welcome.
hack there. And I was going to add, one of the things that I do is I have one of those like handheld back massagers.
Mm,
And for me, before I go to sleep, I actually run it kind of at the base of my skull to just trigger, getting into the parasympathetic nervous system. Especially with, I feel like with sleep issues, which so many people have, like turning off, getting out of that sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic. So now I'm going to add some essential oils to that mix
yeah.
too.
And I mean, there's other essential oils that are more like calming nature, like
Mm-hmm.
frankincense or lavender.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I would sometimes also like hear where the pituitary gland is.
Mm-hmm.
I would sometimes just, massage a little bit of maybe frankincense
Mm-hmm.
on it.
Okay. And for those that
Um,
are listening and not watching, basically the pituitary is, where you would think your third eye would be, essentially.
yeah,
So,
it's kind of if you go between your eyes, sorry.
mhm.
If
Your
you
ears
kind of
too.
go up with your finger, you will
Mhm.
kind of find a little like a
Mm,
dip.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. It's
Yeah,
funny
mine's actually lower down than yours.
oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you figure out where your dip is. It's interesting because for so long I was like the pituitary and the third eye are the same thing. And then like I did all this research and it's not supposed to be. There's your oh, it's something else that is connected with your third eye. But I think of them as being in the same area. And, if you're spiritually inclined at all, and if you know about third eye, like I just, because the pituitary and hypothalamus are so powerful, right, and oversee our endocrine system, I'm just like, I like that connection in my mind. I don't know that that's really truth, but it's kind of an easier way to remember where it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And you will probably also, I mean, I actually have days where I feel really tense. Basically, I have physical
Mm.
tension here. And
Uh-huh.
you actually are drawn to kind of actually, putting your
Rubbing it.
finger and massaging it.
I love that.
So, and what I also use is like a black roll. I don't know if you have
What is that?
one.
Mm-mm.
It's kind of it's a foam roller
Okay.
so I use that also on my neck if
Mm.
it gets really stiff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of massaging the fascia in your muscles.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps as well.
Good
And there's
stuff.
another blend I use sometimes on my neck is the inflammatory blend. That's also
Mm.
from Vibrant Blue Oils.
Okay. Do you know what's in that one?
Um, do I
No
have
big
it
deal.
here?
I can put it in the notes, but I was just wondering if you knew.
Not by heart, no.
Okay. I'll put it in the show notes so people
Yeah,
can look it up.
I can share the link.
Yeah. Very cool. I know a lot of people, I mean, like you said, we're just trying to do our best. And so having little extra help, and little hacks is very helpful a lot of the time. Especially something, that I think essential oils like really do bring us really fast, sort of, into that parasympathetic state or just kind of out of the stress that we're in, right? Because they hit the nose so quickly, and so it's very powerful and helpful.
Yeah, and actually there's a difference, um, which nostril you're using. So
Mm,
the left one is actually basically the left and the right nostril, they are
mhm.
connected to the left and right side of the brain.
Okay, that
So
makes sense.
if you want to calm down, you would actually um, use the left side of your brain. So you're kind of blocking the other one.
Oh,
No, it's the right side. Sorry.
right. I think a right
Thinking
side
the
is
other.
creative, right? Is more creative, so that's maybe parasympathetic. I don't even know.
Yeah, so you basically want to block the other one out, and then sniff right from the bottle. So that seems to be actually the most effective. And then of course applying directly, like on the vagus nerve, or you can also apply them to your feet. Like you could do liver detox and apply some oils on your liver on your feet, right?
Yeah.
Or for your kids even, because that way you're sure you're not like having any, I mean, that's kind of a safe way to test them as well on your skin, I guess.
Right. And I always find, I feel like kids and pets respond to these things so much faster even than adults do, because they're not like trying to override it with their, their left brain, or the brain
Yeah, that
saying
might
like
be,
this,
yeah.
this doesn't work or whatever. So yeah, kids usually respond pretty fast to stuff like that, for sure. Wow, that's amazing. So I do have one question. What happens when like you try all the things, like kind of all the things we've talked about, and you're still struggling with constipation? Are there any particular like products or supports that you say, okay, for a little while, we're gonna, use this to like get things moving as we work on the deeper issues?
Yeah, it's still not reach to laxatives because your body really gets used to them. So I mean, magnesium citrate is what I usually don't recommend actually taking, because it's like not the best form of magnesium, but it
Right.
does really help against constipation. And then aloe vera is also great, aloe vera juice, but really then take a tablespoon of the juice before your meals. Or yeah, it also exists in forms of capsules, I think so. But I think in general, it kind of, dialing it back and seeing, okay, what are the things that are causing inflammation? So it can be food sensitivities. And you said we would basically work on all the gut things, and maybe are there any food sensitivities that will cause inflammation, or somebody taking lots of painkillers or medication. I mentioned the blood sugar. Yeah, basically also have your thyroid checked. I think
Yes.
we didn't mention this
Yeah.
because like
Really important.
hypothyroid can cause basically weight gain. It will basically slow down your
Slow down
metabolism.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and constipation will also be one of the symptoms. And yeah, I think other than that, I mean, yeah, you want to have sufficient stomach acid, of course, but that also would be part of the kind of the gut healing, I guess. Just in general, work on stress.
Yeah. I mean, it's lots of areas to kind of deal with for most people, right? It can take a minute, but then it all starts to really work together. And I mean, as you mentioned, even for you, when you were a teen, just shifting your diet and moving started to help. And then you sort of worked on these different layers, and now you are to where you are, which is, incredible considering the type of constipation that you dealt with for a good chunk of your life, right? And
Yeah.
the fact that you go daily now. And so, I always like to tell people like there's hope, even if they have had this pattern for so much of their life.
Yeah, and I mean, what comes basically just coming back to the microbiome, I think sometimes or often it's kind of a lack of the bifidobacteria. And I mean, to be honest, now we're also going towards like a more low carb kind of diet, but that also comes often with low bifidobacteria in the gut. So that's maybe something that you want to consider supplementing or focus on foods like fermented foods that might bring in these bacteria. But I think, yeah, probably doing like a, not constantly take probiotics, but basically do like a 3-month round and then stop and maybe do another one. I think that can definitely help as well a lot with constipation.
For sure. Yeah. And finding the right ones absolutely. Cause I go to the other, extreme. I've always tended towards, well, I had pretty good stools before all of my stuff went down, but if it was going to be bad, it was going to be looser stools, and so you definitely kind of have to figure out the right strains of bacteria depending on what's going on in your system. Because I know, like, for a lot of my clients, I'll use Megaspore Biotic, but with constipation, that's not always the best place to start, because I know for some people it can constipate that or worsen their constipation.
Yes. Yeah, it's true. I've taken that one as well. And I really needed to respect the dose actually, but it's true that it didn't have, I've taken other probiotics before that had like a better effect.
Yeah.
On my digestion.
On the motility. Yeah. So we're bio individual, right?
Yes.
We got to try these different things. Well, this was amazing and so helpful for people. I'm so glad that you came on and talked about this.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, it's like, so I mean, again, I love talking about poop, but like I said in the beginning, this issue is so pervasive in our Western society. I don't know if it is so much in Eastern society, but like I'd say in the US and then probably in Europe too, it's such a common thing. And so it really is at the seat of our health, right, to be pooping a good amount and getting all of those toxins out and everything moving out. So thank you for sharing your incredible knowledge around it and your story.
You're welcome. Most my pleasure.
So I know that you work with people one-on-one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so remind us where we can find you.
Right. So you mentioned my website, I think, in the beginning. That's mariekesteen.com, and that's MARIEKESTEEN.
I'm the same way when I'm spelling my name. I'm like, how do I spell it? And that'll also be in the show notes so people can, click directly there. So.
And then I have a closed Facebook group that's called Holistic Health for Women. And that's basically where I do most of my communication and where most of the things are going on. So
nice.
If you're interested, you're welcome to join
that. Nice. Yeah. So I'll also put the link to that so people can get there directly from the show notes. So
great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much again for coming on today.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
All right. I will see you guys next time.